Hey y'all, Ramdino here, coming at you again for another Appalachian Trail community news, through hiker update, and trail information. I got a lot of stuff going on the trail this week. Some of it not necessarily good. Most of it's great. Well, let's go ahead and jump into what's going on the Appalachian Trail. So, No Rush, who is probably the last remaining Sobo that is coming through from 2022. We've had another spotting with him in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Mandy and her family, Matt and Shep, they sent us this picture right here. They are out, I believe they're out day hiking or maybe section hiking, but judging by their packs, look like they're just day hiking. But anyhow, they ran into No Rush there, said he was great to talk to, and it was really neat for them to see that, and they were just in awe. Apparently they've been following him and everything. So No Rush is coming through. One of the reasons I say he's probably the very last is because his hiker tag actually was marked by the ATC when they gave it to him as the last Sobo. So anyway, he is coming through. He's in the Smokies. Might be done by now, so it's just a matter of time before he gets done, and we see that awesome picture of him there at Springer Mountain. Robert Ward, he got his trail name of Wheezy, and he's at Blue Mountain Shelter, or north of there by now, because obviously people send me their reports in, and it may take a few days for me to, by the time they send it to me, I've recorded this a few days later. Goose, and here's the bad part here that's coming up, and I'm gonna lead with, I hate to lead with this or be up near the front, but it is what it is. Goose and her two sons, Sonic and Buttercup, so that's a family of three. They're out there hiking on the trail, and they're through hiking as a mama taking her two sons out there. She's homeschooling while they're on the trail. In her words, they are special needs children that they're going out there, but they're perfectly capable of everything that they need out there on the trail. And she's doing a great job out there of them. But I'm going to keep her location vague, and here's why I'm going to keep their location very vague. Because they've had two run-ins with different hikers on the trail. Or I take that back. Two run-ins with the same hiker on the trail. One time he was by himself. Another time he had a buddy with him. So one time it was further south. Her children are very excitable children, as a lot of children are. They do make a lot of noise occasionally, but they're constrained. She constrains them at night during hiking hours, or during sleeping hours and stuff. So it's not like they're disturbing people when they shouldn't be. But in any case, they get to shelters, and so they go around and have a fun time, like kids are going to have, like children will have. So apparently a hiker took offense at that, didn't like them, was bullying them, and was bullying their mom. But at that point, it had not progressed to anything other than that, and just the aggravation of her having to deal with it and the kids having to deal with it. However, once she got out of the Smokies and north of Standing Bear, it got worse. Apparently she ran into them again, and now they're on the trail by themselves. And let me back up just a little bit. At the shelter previously, there was somebody there at the shelter that took up for them and kind of told the other guy to cool his jets. So now skip forward, they're north of Standing Bear, and now they've run into the same guy again, and he's got a buddy at the old shelter. First shelter he was doing drugs, now he's doing drugs again, and so he's bullying the kids, even kind of shoving them around, but he particularly pushed their mother so much so that she fell down. It's a very hard on her, of course, but very difficult for the kids. They're out here in the middle of nowhere, and so that kind of stuff should not happen to anybody on the trail. And we'll talk a little bit more about that coming up. But what kind of grown men bully and assault women and children on the trail? What kind of coward does that? There's a lot of things I could say. Somebody like that's not worth the powder take to blow them to you know where. But that is very upsetting to me. That only gives the trail a bad reputation, and that's why people ask, is the Appalachian Trail a dangerous trail? And we'll talk about that in a minute as well. But in any case, that's very upsetting, and I hope that Goose and Sonic and Buttercup, they will continue on, and folks around them, and it'd be good if they could hike with some other folks because there's safety in numbers, would do that. So we'll cover a little bit more about safety on the trail here in just a minute, but I want to keep going with Sammy. He started his flip-flop there at Harper's Ferry, or hit her flip-flop at Harper's Ferry. She's number 64, and she's also raising money for a local animal shelter, the Blount County Animal Center. Patriarch, he's past 300 miles. He's going to be around Irwin. He says the bear cables at Jerry's cabin are still down. Hiker Blue checks in. He's reached Hot Springs, be doing a 0, and he wants to send a shout out to the Trail Angels and the trail crews that keep the trails up out there, and just for both of those groups providing high morale for him along the way. Mama Nita and Tupac, they have made it to Damascus. You'll recall Mama Nita fell and really hit her head hard, and there was some discussion on the boards about maybe it was a basal skull fracture, because she had the raccoon eyes that are a symptom of that, where she has bleeding and it pulls down around her eyes. But Tupac says she's doing much better. Here's a picture of them in Damascus, there at the Arch, Damascus. No more blood in her eyes, so hopefully everything is fine with her, and there won't be any future repercussions because of that. Moose Liver is back on trail for her flip-flop at Glasgow from her hiatus of looking after her grandchildren. Popcorn, Cup of Tea, and Hold Fast, they are north of Daleville, sitting in this picture there of the McAfee Knob, McAfee Knob. I always screw that up. McAfee Knob. And anyway, it was an awesome sunset they had there, and they are north of Daleville. Grizz, he has made it to Neal Gap. Lucky Companion is at Hot Springs, and he is finding the accommodations very difficult to find there in Hot Springs. Of course, he's right in the middle of the bubble, and so that's going to be an issue anytime you're in the bubble, particularly when you have bad weather moving in. It's going to be really difficult to find accommodations there. Stretch is out of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, and he is hiking, at least he hiked through the park there with Dingo Steve from the line down under. Not talking about hell, I'm talking about Australia, although Australia gets hot as hell. They should be around Irwin somewhere. He did not encounter any kind of ice in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Oz, the hiking sailor, had sent me some pictures of some ice on the trail there, but Stretch said they did not have any. And Oz, he's made it to Damascus and actually is well on his way to the 600-mile point. And so he is doing well. However, you'll recall that he had set out to do the entire trail in 100 days. He says that's a bust now, that he's just too old to be able to do that. And that's not a thing in the world wrong with that. It's the journey, along the journey, not the speed of the journey that counts anyway. Oz is a veteran from the Canadian Armed Forces. I believe he was in the Navy. So, of course, military life and military duties take a lot out of you physically. And so, and he's no spring chicken. However, he's out there hitting the Appalachian Trail, going through hike it. So that is awesome for him. Hiram Hikes, he is past the 600-mile mark. DJ, he has made it to Newfound Gap and went into Gatlinburg for resupply, and he's there with Snugga J and Gator. Here's a picture of them having some town food down there, and he's been hiking with them since the knock. Bubbles hit 500 miles and is slowing down a bit and enjoying the sights and the blue blazes and the sound of the water, especially along the way. So that's neat that she's gotten 500 miles in, decided she wants to get more out of her hike than just the speed, and she wants to enjoy her hike and enjoy what she's hiking through out there. Robert Ward, he got started, and he may be coming into Dix Creek. Rock and Roll has made it to Delaware Water Gap and says he is done with Rocksylvania. Rhetoric and Wedge, they have made it to the 600-mile mark. Frodo is with Rover and a different Oz and Mishap, and they're on their way to Waynesboro, and they caught this hitch in the town, and this to me looks like to be a terrifying hitch. Looks like somebody on a grass truck. I caught a weed eater in it, but you got Rover, and she is sitting inches away from certain death if she comes off the back end of that pickup truck. So be careful out there when you're catching hitches, especially in pickup trucks that don't have a tailgate or the tailgate's down. Smoke is in the Smokies, of course. Trash Hiker and RP Calculated, they have entered the Shanties and are well on their way through there. Cobweb Rose, Snapshot, Mountain Crusher, and Lucky, they have made it to Hot Springs. Wings, he should be in Hot Springs by now. DOB and Jersey, they are north of Atkins. They saw the ponies when they went through the Grayson Highlands and Roan Mountain there, and Jersey was able to spread some of his wife's ashes there in Grayson Highlands. So the Jersey Rednecks were a team, a husband and wife team that attempted to thru hike several years ago, and they were going to plan to do it again this year, but of course his wife passed away before that could happen, and he is hiking in her honor and taking her ashes with him and leaving some of those ashes along the way. So they should be coming into Pearisburg in a few days. Boston, he's made it to the James River Bridge there, and he did not jump in the river. So, but he's somewhere around Glasgow. AOG and Mule, they have made it to Pearisburg. Cheesecake, Papa Cat, Jen, and Nick, they have made it to Franklin. They had an amazing stay at a new hostel there called Onward. The Chica and Sunsets was full, so they recommended this to them, which is a new hostel, and they said it turned out great. And Soup Cup, he is on his way to Delville. So those are check-ins that I've had this week. If for some reason I missed you, I apologize for that. Please check in on like Friday or Saturdays, because I usually film these on Sundays and script out on Saturdays and sometimes on Fridays. If you would leave your trail name either in the subject if you matter or in your signature somewhere when you check in, that is really helpful for me. I can't remember everybody's trail name, and keeps me from hunting back through all the emails or Instagram posts or Facebook posts, what have you, to find out who it is that's that's sending me that update. So that is very helpful if you would do that, and also be sure to include some pictures of yourself. Folks out there like seeing who I'm talking about, and other thru hikers recognize you, and they want to keep up with maybe folks they've met before, and so it's really good to have a picture of yourself and a tramley. A lot of people are sending me like pictures of the stones or the sticks that say 300 or 600 miles, and it's better to have a picture of a person in those pictures. And the reason is because though the people that you meet on the trail are what's going to mean the most to you. Certainly that 600-mile stones laid out there are meaningful, but the person you shared it with is going to be even more meaningful. So take a picture of people that you're with and send those with me so that we've got people there in the pictures, because it is the people's trail, and that is what matters, is the people out there and this great hiker community that we're a part of. So some starts next week from my support list. We've got David. He's doing a flip-flop and his trail name is Slow-Mo. Andy is a flip-flopper. Keith Highfield is a Nobo. Elandra Moore and Eagle is a flip-flopper. Disco, not the Disco from last year, but another Disco, is a Nobo. Matador, who also was from AT class of 2017, is a Nobo. Phoenix is a Nobo, and Carolyn Farrell is a Nobo, and Trig is a flip-flopper. So you'll notice we got more flip-floppers now than we've had in the past, and so it's starting to become flip-flopper season now that's going on. Off the trail this week, we did have a gray dog. He got off the trail at the Bear Garden Hostel. He said some old sufferings just would not allow him to continue, and that's fine. That's a good amount of distance he's done there, gray dog, so awesome to hear that from you. Not going to give out any specifics as far as registrations. We've got so much going on this week that I didn't want to extend out the video any more than it's already going to be. However, if that's something y'all like to see every week, you want me to put it back in every week, then let me know. Be glad to do that. I know some people find that helpful information, but Nobo season is winding down. We're coming down to the last few weeks of Nobo season, and so we're not having as many people starting on the trail, and so the registrations are kind of becoming a moot point. But if you want me to include those, I'll be glad to include those. And then we do have a lot of news out there. Before I hit the news, I want to thank Martin and Crossword for the super thanks that they sent me. So Martin send a super thanks. And then crossword is from hiker from Flip Flopper from 2022. So thanks a lot to you guys for doing that. If you're interested in supporting this channel, you can do that by giving me a thumbs up or subscribing or even leaving comments, or if you'd like to do it in a more tangible way, you can do that through super thanks, which is down below, right below the video, or you can become a Patreon member, and that link is down below or on the banner to my channel. So you do all that. All those help me support the hiker community, support and help me produce these videos, and so greatly appreciate all the support that everybody gives me, whether it's in a tangible way like that or whether it's just through the normal way of subscriptions and comments and give me a thumbs up and stuff. So appreciate all of your comments. Leave those to me down there, and enjoy corresponding with folks out there in the hiker community. So some news we got there. Our northern correspondent whispers. So he says the Katahdin trails are already closed for the spring. So the significance of that is that it's kind of early for them to be closed. They close when the conditions up there get so wet and they're either not frozen, or we're getting into the winter season and they're getting so much precipitation that they're getting wet. They close that to protect the environment up there. So by them closing now, that means that the trails are starting to melt, and we're probably going to have an early melt this year. So that means that it probably will not be a problem for those that are signed up to start in June their Sobo trip. They're probably not going to have a problem doing that. In the past, we've had people that Katahdin did not open up, or the hunt trail system that goes to Katahdin was not open. They were not able to start their Sobo from Baxter Peak there, and so they had to start and then down in Baxter Park and go Sobo and either come back when it opened, or I have met people on my section hikes, particularly going through the Smokies, met some folks there that that had to start early. They had to start, south, because south of Katahdin, because they couldn't get in because it was closed, and they didn't have the money to go back and finish. So technically they were not through hikers, and technically they missed out on a what is arguably one of the neatest parts of the trail up there on Katahdin there at the sign. So that is unfortunate. So but it looks like this year is not going to be the case like that. And also, Whisper sent in a video here of what's going on up there in the White. So Whiskers, tell us about it.
Hi-ho, Whispers here with White Mountain Trails update for Ramdino on April 14th. As always this time of year, we still have a lot of snow. I'm only here at about 2,300 feet. But we're getting warmer days, so the rivers are rushing and the crossings are exciting. The snow just off the trail is mushy and you sink right into it. And the monorail on trail is rotting and often undercut with water. We'll still have that monorail to early June, but that's normal.
Thanks a lot for that, Whiskers. Greatly appreciate that. Look forward to more of those updates. Did have a fire out there on the trail, and it was actually on the AT. I had a subscriber sent it in. Expedition Magician had sent in, and this is a picture that one of his buddies, who's a fireman up there, who was part of putting it out, sent. So it was right there on the trail. The only way they could get in there to do any type of containment was with airdrops. They were doing a lot of airdrops. It is out now, so there is no fire danger for this particular fire. However, they do think it was started by hikers because they look like the source was at a fire ring, where there was a stone fire ring around a campsite up there. So that's unfortunate that hikers would do that. It was a remote area, so it has to be people that are hiking in. Don't know, have any clue if it was through hikers. Through hikers are typically better than that. One of the things you need to remember is that a lot of these campsites that people camp at, they're up on top of the hill. Well, there may not be a water source up there, so people are having to pull water up there to do it. Well, most people only carry 2 liters in their water bottles, but they do have some type of dirty water bag that typically is a 2-liter bag that they may fill up to hike up the top of the mountain where the campsite is up there. The problem is they run through their water and they have a fire, and then they don't have the means to put it out. So because they're out of water, or they don't use all the water that they have. The fire should be cold out. So by cold out, I mean you put water on it, stir it around, put water on it, keep stirring it until it ain't smoking, until you can put your hands under the coals. And so that means it is cold out, no embers, nothing like that. If you don't have the water to do that, then don't start the fire to begin with, because I've been past campsites a lot of times where it was still smoldering and I had to use my water to put it out. There may not be somebody coming behind you to do that. So by all means, please do not start a fire if you don't have the resources to put it out. T, who is a 2022 thru hiker, he sent in a question about parking at Trail Days. So Trail Days is coming up May 19th to 21st. Of course, that's a gathering of thru hikers and others, pretty much the hiker community there in Damascus. He asked a question about parking. So parking is at a premium there. I usually come on a Friday and usually get there Friday shortly after lunch, and the parking that the town has is already full. If you haven't already got a campsite at one of the local campgrounds, they're full by now too. So the public public parking may be full by the time you get there. There is some private parking around there that starts filling up after the public parking is. It's usually a little more expensive, but it is, and that's all down there around the camping area, around the ball field, which is the family-friendly area, or the woods area, something like that down there. So parking will be at a premium, so get there as early as you can in order to secure your parking there. And I've also had some folks that have voiced some concerns about the ball field, and that it being a little more a lot of issues going on down there, maybe not being safe. I have always camped at the ball field. I took my daughter and camped at the ball field, and that's, again, the family-friendly area. Sure, there's going to be adult beverages down there, but there's not people walking around drunk typically. Not that I've seen. You will smell weed in the area, but it's really not that bad. Not enough to get a contact buzz. And so, but it's a great place for the little more laid back hiker communities down there. You can go up in the woods if you want to party. That's where the party's going on, and where Riff Raff goes up there and sets up their encampment, and other people as well. And so that's where the party's at. I suppose that's where it might get out of hand, although I don't know that it's unsafe up there either. And don't believe that it is. I walk through there when I go to the drum circle or the fire, and then just walk through there in general, and everybody's always been nice. People will feed you when you go through there, and so to my knowledge, I'm sure there has been some criminal activity going on, but my knowledge is perfectly safe in there. There are a large amount of police officers and other LEOs walking around, and so their presence, I think, really keeps people safe, and keeps things down to a level where it's acceptable back in there. So I don't have any problem in the world with going to Trail Days and staying in the hiker community, in the ball field, family friendly area, or even walking back through the woods and stuff in there. So I'll be there. Usually set up underneath a big red pop-up shelter. Come along, supposed to be coming with me, maybe some other folks. So please come see me, and let's sit down and chat. Or if you see me out walking around town, love to come up and chat with you, and just talk to the hiker community, see how things are going in your life out there. You'll also recall that early in the year, a hiker who was vastly unprepared to hike the last of her 4,000 peaks that she had left to hike in New Hampshire was died of exposure earlier in the year, and her name was Emily Sotelo. And her mom has started a foundation, and it's called Hiking Buddies, and this foundation is basically to teach people about how to be prepared when you're going out into the wilderness area, going out into those, how to avoid what happened to her daughter. And so I think that's something that's great, that can help other people out there They're having a fundraiser. I'll leave a link to that down below. You can also go to this page here and you'll see all the information you need about not only the fundraiser, but about a hike that they'll be putting together in honor of Emily. So I'd encourage you to go and do that. The AC, and we talked just a little bit ago about there was a fire on the AT, and there was, and the ATC has put out some fire warnings that they've gleaned from the National Forest Service about fire conditions going on in Connecticut and Massachusetts, also in Northern Virginia, Central Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania. So there have been some areas through there that are very dry. I thought we had a lot of rain, but apparently these areas have not had enough. It's been very dry, and so there are fire bans in effect. So it's important that you know where the fire bans are, because obviously if you start a campfire and somebody comes along, you could be fined for doing so. So keep that in mind as you're hiking up the trail. Things are probably only get worse now as we come out of spring and start coming into the summer months. I also heard some scuttlebutt that ATC is going to be rerouted via the Bartram Trail and a greenway through Franklin. And I talked to Sunset up there from Chicken Sunset's Hostel. They would be in the know about what's going on in Franklin, and they indicate that would be highly unlikely. Completely agree with that, because the trail, the AT crosses, the closest it comes to Franklin there is at Winding Stair Gap, which I believe is around 14 miles from town. So it would have to be a pretty good significant reroute, also missing a lot of the trail that time and effort has been spent to maintain, plus it would miss some shelters. The Bartram Trail comes back into the AT, or intersects it there way above, and so one of the things that is going on is that the Bartram Trail is being rerouted so that it does go over a greenway and through Franklin, kind of missing a road walk that it's had before. But I don't think that the AT is going to be included in any of that, and so I think that's just typical AT trail scuttlebutt that happens and kind of gets blown out of proportion from time to time. I did want to mention some things about the trail and the dangers on the trail. So a lot of people, one of the questions that they want to hike the trail, but one of the first questions they have is the Appalachian Trail dangerous? And my answer has always been, no, it's not dangerous. It's certainly not any more dangerous than what's out here in society. Always felt like it was safe. And to some degree, I still feel that way. But last year, we had several assaults that happened on the trail. Of course, a couple years before that, we had Stronghold, who was murdered on the trail by an insane person. And there have been other murders in the past. But it just seems like things have been ramped up lately. And the Appalachian Trail, for me, has been one of the only places I don't carry. And if you know what I mean by the word carry, you know if you know. But I have started to consider that now, because it just seems like with what's happened to Goose and her children, and last year, and of course the season's early yet, there just seems to be more junk going on the AT than what should be going on, and that saddens me very much. And by the way, if you want to hear the story direct from Goose, they have a YouTube channel that's called the Dirtbag Hikers. So I'd encourage you to go ahead and look at that. She's actually put out 2 videos on the bullying and assault that she had. I still don't think that's indicative of, not everybody's going to have those encounters. Unfortunately, they do happen. I don't know what to do about that. One of the things, though, we can do about it is hike in numbers. Safety's in numbers. And if you see something like that occurring, one, if it happens to you and there's nobody around, move on. In the case of the assault that she had, I think they were trying to move on, and these people were just were not allowing it and were assaulting them, and it was in the midst of what was going on. But if you come up to a person in a shelter, whatever, and you have these heebie-jeebies that go off, hike on. if you're a person in the trail, in a shelter or on the trail, and you see this occurring to somebody else, you need to step in and say something to that person. Not asking you to come to blows by any means, but if you just say something, then a lot of times, you know, the person that's perpetrating it will see that he's outnumbered or her's outnumbered, usually he, and they'll stop doing what they're doing, and then y'all can move on. But in any case, if you are assaulted like this, or you come across a person who ain't all there on the trail and who's acting weird like that, and I would say bullying children's acting weird, then report that to the ATC and report it to local authorities. And if the local authorities want you to press charges, agree to press charges. It may delay your hike somewhat, but then also you can continue to hike up the trail oftentimes, and they can be in touch with you, and you may have to come back and testify those people. But these people need to be getting off the trail, because if they're not, if you don't testify, who knows what's going to happen. They may accelerate even worse to the next victim out there. So is the ATC safe? I'll still say yes for the time being, but I think that we're kind of getting to the point where we just got to be a little more careful than we've been in the past. I hope as the hiker community we can come together and find some way to do something about it, and it will truly be the people's trail. So look out for each other out there, folks. Now I gotta go work on the chicken coop, and so I'm heading in. As always, appreciate you, and we'll see you out there.